Thank you. And so we'll take a second here to see if the technology once again works. I'm sure that many of you have joined us today because you do have experience or expect to have experience in Agile projects, and most Agile projects are based upon user stories, and many of them in turn have user story acceptance tests. And in my experience, people tend to have a lot more difficulty with user stories than one would expect, and even greater difficulties with user story acceptance tests. So we've got a few objectives here, and the first thing is that we want to give you some insights into why so many user story acceptance tests turn out not to be such good tests. And we want to give you a little bit of practice and a little bit of guidance in writing user story acceptance criteria and tests to better demonstrate that the user stories have been met. And some of you, perhaps many of you, are familiar with the given, when, then format that's usually prescribed for writing user story acceptance tests. And my experience is that that's kind of ordinarily addressed somewhat superficially. And so I want to at least get you started thinking beyond the superficials to get more into the content and techniques of testing. So hopefully these objectives are understandable and meaningful and relevant to why you're here. So in the Agile world and the user story world, there's a lot of seeming simplicity. User stories are about as simple as they can get, and user story acceptance tests are just about as simple. And yet, ironically, that can trip people up. The apparent simplicity can in itself create complexities that people tend to stumble on because they're not always aware of what's happening or why. And so we're gonna do a little bit of a risky thing here with this webinar. We're going to try to make it as much as possible a truly interactive workshop. We're going to look for you folks to do a lot of the work, actively identifying, writing, and evaluating user story acceptance tests, both their content and their format. Now, it's a risky presentation. Are you willing? Are you willing to engage in such a risky presentation? And if you are, nod your head or say yes, or even, heaven forbid, type yes into the chat window. Okay, and we'll be looking for you to use the chat window as we go forward. So if you're hearing me and you're willing, type yes into the chat window. Okay, and so either that's not working or I'm not seeing it, but I'm going to continue on the assumption that everybody, we're seeing a yes, thank you. Okay, it's always reassuring to a speaker when we get feedback from the from the participants. So I'm sure that most of you are familiar with user stories, which are the form that is generally used for capturing requirements in Agile projects, and Mike Cohn's format as a such and such type of user. I want something or another so that I get some benefit, some reason. And that's pretty straightforward, pretty well known. I would suspect that most of you use a similar format. Okay? So, as I said, we're going to make you guys work some. And so What I would like each of you to do is pretend if you do belong to a professional association such as IIBA or PMI or Software Quality Group of New England, that if you do belong, good. If you don't belong, pretend you belong, and imagine what it is that your chapter needs to improve so that it can improve its performance. And so I want you to quickly write a user story. Now it says in the Q&A, but we've modified that so that we write it in the chat. This is the asynchronous part of the presentation where the slides were done before we actually hooked up here. So in the chat, quickly write a user story for your chapter's main requirement. As to something or another, I want such and such so that I get some benefit. And so I'll give you a minute to do that, and I'll try to catch those as best I can, because when you all start entering them, they start spinning by pretty quickly. Okay. And as you're entering them, you should all be seeing them as well. And so we'll try to capture some of the content that people are entering. So write your user story. There we go. Okay. So, okay. And it looks like if you hit enter, it's going to flip down to the next entry, so you might just want to use commas to split the as I want and so that. Okay. So here we go. So as a member of PMI, I want the ability to quickly see a list of upcoming events so that I can better plan my appointments. Good. Excellent. Okay. And okay. Hopefully we'll get a few more in there. Now previously I tried to capture everything and type it into the slides, and that was just overwhelming. So I'm just going to let your entries accumulate in the chat window. Okay. Okay. And some people have put them in the Q&A, and I'm only able to look at one window at a time, and so I'm looking at the chat window. But if there's stuff in the Q&A, we'll try and be aware of that later. Okay. So I want the chapter to improve communication so that I will be informed. Okay. Email digest so that I can stay abreast of chapter offerings. Okay. So we're seeing.
Hi there, hope you enjoyed that last clip. My name is Michael Maludis, and if you'd like to watch the full 60 minutes of that last webcast, while also gaining complete unlimited access to our entire library of IT learning, simply visit our subscribe page at greatpro.org/subscribe. Unlimited annual access is $199 per year, but if you use the coupon code LEARN2EARN, you can drop that membership fee to just $149. That's less than $13 per month for unlimited access to over 1,000 hours of on-demand career development, covering the entire spectrum of IT management best practices, including business analysis and requirements, software development, quality and testing, risk management, process improvement, project management, and even digital transformation. But your membership doesn't just give you unlimited access to our vast learning library. You also get free access to our mobile app, as well as direct access to our network of over 300 of the world's leading IT consultants, all of whom are dedicated to putting practical knowledge at your fingertips so that you can learn more and earn more. I hope you will join me in becoming a member of the Great IT Professional and advancing your career with us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button above so that you get notified whenever we publish new free webcasts each week of the year. Thank you for your time and best wishes for your continued success.